It was a soft, clouded night when Mia first heard the voice through the baby monitor. At first, she brushed it off, thinking maybe the static had picked up a neighbor's television. She adjusted the dial, hearing only the soothing sound of her baby Liam's soft breaths. The clock struck midnight when the voice murmured again, faint and gentle, like a whisper from a dream. "Mama!" A small, childlike voice called, lingering in the silent air. Mia froze, glancing at her husband, who slept soundly beside her. She pressed her ear closer to the monitor, heart racing. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to herself, half hoping for a quick answer, and half wishing she hadn't heard anything at all. A soft rustling crackled through the monitor, then silence. Mia's fingers hovered over the device, caught in the chill of mystery that filled the room. Her mind raced with questions, each one darker than the last. The next night, as she tucked Liam into his crib, the memory of the voice lingered. She stayed longer, stroking his hair, her eyes watching every shadow in the nursery. Finally, when she convinced herself all was well, she returned to her room, leaving the monitor beside her pillow. Minutes passed then. Just as her eyes began to droop with sleep, the voice returned, clearer this time. "Mama, where are you?" Mia sat up, wide-eyed, gripping the monitor. The voice was so close, so desperate, it tugged at her heart. But this wasn't Liam. It couldn't be. In the dark, her mind reached for an answer, and a memory surfaced. A dream she once had about a child she never met, lost in a field of endless mist. "Mama, please," the voice echoed, softer now, laced with sadness. "Mama?" Mia whispered back, her own voice trembling. Who are you?" The response was only a faint sigh, almost like a breeze. Days passed, and the voice came and went, always at midnight, always that same tender call. Each night, Mia's curiosity grew, as did her fear. She kept it all to herself, convinced she might be losing her grip on reality. One night, as she rocked Liam in the nursery, she glanced around, a feeling of being watched pressing down on her. "Is anyone here?" she murmured into the darkness, as though the shadows might answer. Only the silent hum of the monitor responded. Until, once again, midnight arrived. This time the voice was different, older, almost familiar. "Mia!" she gasped, clutching the monitor to her chest, heart racing. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. There was a pause, then a faint, sad chuckle. "Don't you remember me?" Mia's skin prickled with cold. How could she forget a voice she didn't recognize, yet somehow, deep down, felt she'd known forever? Mia's hand trembled, the baby monitor almost slipping from her grip. She felt a sharp pang in her chest, a sensation of something she couldn't explain, a memory pulling at the edges of her mind. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The voice on the other end hesitated before speaking, and Mia felt as though it were reaching out from the depths of her own soul. "You've forgotten me," it said, the words like a soft plea, filled with longing. "You promised me. You promised." Mia's heart pounded in her chest, her breath shallow. The voice, so full of sorrow, seemed to slice through her, stirring something deep within. A memory locked away, buried under the weight of time. What promise? What was this thing that she'd forgotten? The room around her seemed to darken as her mind raced. Fragments of a past she didn't remember flashing before her eyes. A memory of a child's laughter, faint, fragile, flickered in the corners of her mind. A child. No, it wasn't Liam. Her mind scrambled for answers, desperate, but the monitor offered no clarity. Only silence for a long, aching moment. Then, the voice returned, this time strained and fearful. "Please, Mia, you have to remember me." Mia's body stiffened, a chill creeping over her skin. The name, her name, echoed through her, and for a split second she was a child again. The years melted away as images flooded her thoughts. A garden, a swing, a face she knew yet could not recall. But that voice, It was the same. "Mia," it said again softly. "Don't leave me here alone." A cold sweat broke out across Mia's forehead. She couldn't breathe, her chest tight with panic, and yet something deep inside her urged her to listen. She pressed the button on the monitor, her voice trembling as she spoke into the darkness. I remember you. I promised. But who are you? What happened? Why are you still here?" For a moment, there was nothing but the eerie crackle of static. The baby monitor hissed, the room around her flickering with a strange energy. And then finally, the voice returned, this time more desperate, more pain than before. "Help me, Mia. You have to help me. I'm still waiting." The words haunted her, wrapping themselves around her like a twisted vine. Mia's mind swirled with the images of the past, of promises made and broken, of a secret too heavy to carry. She glanced at Liam, sleeping soundly in his crib, and her heart ached with the realization that this, whatever this was not about him. It was something older, darker, tied to a time she thought had long passed. Her hands trembled as she picked up the monitor again, the air thick with tension. "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" she whispered, the words trembling in the silence. "To remember," the voice replied softly, almost too quietly to hear. "To remember that you were mine first." The words reverberated in Mia's mind like a haunting melody. "You were mine first." Her heart skipped a beat, her breath catching in her throat. The voice, so familiar yet so foreign, seemed to echo not only through the baby monitor, but deep within her very soul. "Mine first," she whispered, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. A cold chill swept through the room, a stark contrast to the warmth that had enveloped her earlier. Her hands shook as she reached for the monitor again, her mind spinning, desperate to grasp what was happening. She glanced at Liam, his small chest rising and falling with each peaceful breath. Her baby, her little boy. And yet in that moment, the connection she felt to him felt fragile, like a thread in the wind, threatened by the weight of something she couldn't see. "Mia!" The voice cut through her thoughts, the tone almost pleading, as if it had grown weaker with time. "Mia, I need you. I'm so sorry. Please, you have to remember." Remember? Mia's heart felt as if it might break in her chest. What was this? What was the voice? The promise she had made? She clutched the monitor to her chest as though it were a lifeline. Suddenly the room seemed to narrow, the walls closing in around her, suffocating her with the weight of uncertainty. Her mind raced back to a moment, before Liam, before her marriage, before everything. A dark hallway in a house she didn't recognize. Flickering lights, a child's laughter that wasn't hers. A whisper, much like the one she was hearing now, echoing in the corners of her memory. "Who are you?" she cried out, her voice breaking as she choked on the tears she hadn't realized were welling up. "Why do you want me? Why now?" The response came as a quiet murmur, like a breath brushing across her ear. "Because you promised. You promised me forever." Mia staggered backwards, the weight of those words pressing on her chest, as if a door had just opened to a past she wasn't ready to face. Her mind reeled with the realization. She had promised someone forever. But who? And why couldn't she remember? The voice had shifted again, quieter this time, weaker, almost fading. "Please, Mia, I'm alone. I've always been alone. You said you'd come back." Mia's eyes darted to the crib. Liam was still there, peaceful in his sleep, unaware of the turmoil that had just surged within her. The room grew heavier, suffocating her with the weight of the unspoken. Her pulse quickened as fragments of a forgotten truth began to surface. She wasn't just Mia, not anymore. There was something, someone that had been waiting for her, someone who was no longer here, but whose presence lingered, like a shadow in her life. The voice, it was a part of her. "I didn't forget you," Mia whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I didn't. But I don't know who you are. Please, tell me." A long pause followed, the silence stretching like a deep breath held too long. Then the voice, softer now, whispered, "You're not alone. You never were. I'm here, Mia." The air in the room grew thick, a strange warmth radiating from the monitor, as if the voice was drawing closer, bridging the distance between them, reaching out from somewhere beyond her understanding. She had made a promise once, a promise that had bound her to something she didn't remember. But now the truth felt as though it was slipping away, a thread unraveling in her hands. And with each passing moment, she wondered if the voice was truly a part of her, or if it was something darker, something more dangerous. With trembling hands, Mia reached out to the monitor one last time, her heart pounding. "What do you want from me?" she cried, her voice breaking in the stillness of the night. "I want you," came the reply, filled with an aching desire that seemed to linger in the air. "I want you to remember everything. Remember what you owe me."